Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning into another Inspired live stream here on Rumble and YouTube. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. Repeat with me: we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole. We're healthy, wealthy, whole, and free, my friends. It's great to see you all. Let us know where you're tuning in from in a live chat or later in the comments. We love to see the beautiful connections all over the world. Speaking of all over the world, my friends, we call this live stream The Rebellion. And there is an instant connection in people's minds as to what a rebellion is. It's ultimately, for most people, connected with a violent overthrow, if you will. And most people think that rebellion is simply overthrowing the government. That's not what we want to talk about here. Actually, there's a much more powerful rebellion going on, and it is much deeper than simply going and protesting and changing the government and bringing one party in versus another. Of course, there are interesting things happening in various countries with elections and stuff like that, but the rebellion that we're talking about here has actually started in this form some 15 years ago. For some people, much longer. But as a movement, it started some 15 years ago. And basically, it is people through this awakening process that are saying, I won't do it anymore. I won't participate. I won't consent. I won't be a part of it. And I've just seen, or Christina and I've just seen a beautiful example with a company that we partnered with. Great, wonderful people. And they have been growing so much over these last months and this year that they had to slow everything down. And they said, hold on, we're going to slow everything down because we want to stay absolutely on high quality integrity. And those things matter to us even more than just fast growth. That is an act of rebellion in a world that is simply wanting to grow more money, more business, more everything. But even deeper than that, so many people in places you wouldn't expect are saying, this is insane. We're playing the same old game. History is repeating itself over and over again. I am not participating. And that is literally the greatest act of rebellion that anyone could do. People have called this civil disobedience, but I always hated that term, because what is the opposite of civil disobedience is civil obedience. What obedience? Who would you be obedient to in the first place? But this act of rebellion is basically saying, I am questioning every single program that is out there, the educational model, the anti-family model, if you will, the medical model, the spiritual, the religious model. I'm questioning the political, the financial model. I'm questioning even the nature of this reality. And I'm saying, hold on. We have been completely lied to for such a long time. And so the rebels, they're the ones who are saying, no, I won't just blindly follow this any longer. I will not do what I know to be wrong just in order to fit in. Because most acts today in society can only happen if people sacrifice their morals. Our whole economic system is basically built on a complete sacrifice of any morals. There are wonderful exceptions to that, and it can be done. But most people, what are they saying? How can I make a quick buck? And they don't care if it's moral, if it's ethical. With the advent of AI, ChatGPT, and all these things in the last months now, it's almost a year, it's been ridiculous how that has gone even further. But then there are these rebels all over the place, and they're saying, I will not rely on this system any longer. I will not participate in it. They're not going out and starting violent revolutions. They're not going out and protesting. They're not going out and fighting someone. They're actually saying, this is not how we were supposed to live. This is not how we were meant to be. And then they ask themselves, well, how were we actually meant to live? Were we supposed to coexist with each other? How were families actually designed, and clans and tribes and kins and all of that? How were we supposed to eat, to drink, to breathe, to trade, to help each other, to be, which is the foundation of everything, spiritually connected? These are the rebels, my friends. And what the word rebellion in that sense means is they're simply going against convention. They're going against that which they have been taught. And I think this is now trickling down to every aspect of the freedom and truth movement, because there is this fear in a lot of people that things could change too much, that we have to still go back to some sense of normalcy that we had before, that these structures are so precious and worth saving. And the rebels are basically saying no, that it all needs to be transformed because it was built on a very shaky foundation. And I'm pretty much standing with the rebels on that, because the truth is that we don't know exactly who built this structure, who built this system, and to what end. But it is in a system that ultimately keeps people in a perpetual cycle of enslavement in one way or another. And the worst prison is up here. That's the worst prison. And the rebels are breaking free from that prison, because you can be economically independent. You can have, a lot of money, and that makes you independent in other ways. But if the prison remains here of who you should be, of what society expects of you, of what you should look like, of how you should live, of what you should eat, of what you should like, if all these shoulds continue to be there, you're not free. You never will be. You can take the fish out of the aquarium, but it's very hard to take the aquarium out of the fish, because it's in the program. And so the rebels all over the place, they're not satisfied with just a new leader or a new party coming into power. They're not satisfied with some meaningless small reform in a political process. They're saying, no, this is bullshit. We're doing it in a different way. We're doing it in a completely different way. And the beautiful thing is that they're getting to a substantial number. And why does that matter? Because these new, which are not new ideas, by the way, they're original ideas, are beginning to penetrate the mainstream more and more. You see, the people are underestimating the transformational journeys that a lot of people in the public arena have made over the last years. They won't talk about it, but we got to meet quite a few people over the last years that are very visible, that that are famous. And for some reason, people think that these famous people have known all along how bad things were, or they have understood this before, and they haven't. They have gone through the same journey many of you have gone through, and they're coming to these conclusions. They're saying, hold on, the whole thing is wrong. It's not just bad apples. The whole thing is wrong. We thought about it in a wrong way. We're looking at it in a wrong way. And they're becoming true rebels, because what they're doing is they're changing the lives of their families. They're changing how they live, where they live, what they do, what they don't do, what they participate in, what they believe in, what they teach their children. Those are rebels, because they're creating multi-generational, impactful change. And this is what we really need. It's a shift in consciousness. So the fight to reclaim the system, it's kind of, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, because I've been advocating for people to go into these government positions, but not necessarily to just reclaim them, but to transform them, to bring them up to the highest standard possible, because that's not how it's been. But most importantly is, whatever we want to see reflected in this system, in this government, in the world outside, needs to first be implemented in our own lives. We can't establish a system if we don't embody that particular system and sets of values first, it doesn't work that way. We can't force something onto other people that we're not willing to embody fully. And so, what does freedom and sovereignty mean? Freedom, I'll give you one definition: saying yes when you mean yes and saying no when you mean no. That's one of the definitions of freedom. How about taking full responsibility for your life? Everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the things you're proud of, the things you're ashamed of, the things you feel guilty about, the things you are procrastinating and not implementing, the things you said you don't like, all of it. Taking full responsibility, that is freedom to me. And then saying, okay, I don't like part of what I'm seeing here in my own life. I don't like what I'm seeing in the world. What am I actually going to do about it? That's a rebel. That to me is a revolutionary. Because historically speaking, people have mustered up courage and the guts to go to war and fight an oppressor. And what has happened really? Has anything significantly shifted? Has anything significantly changed? I'll give you the example of Central Europe, an area of perpetual warfare over centuries and centuries and centuries. And fundamentally, people will say, yeah, well, people have a higher standard of living today, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, nobody's freer today. They're just in a different kind of prison because they've gone about it the same way over and over again. We need to truly withdraw that energy and the belief that we will fix things by fixing just the government. We have to become, like Greg Braden has said in our beautiful conversation a few months ago, he said so beautifully, the ultimate act of revolution is to become the best possible version of yourself. That's the ultimate act of rebellion. And that's the one act of rebellion that the oppressors don't want you to do. Because this one, it's hard to fight this one because you're not doing anything wrong. You're not storming a building. You're not overthrowing anything. You're transforming yourself. You're becoming the best possible version that you could be. And with that, you become a contagion factor for everyone around you. Because there's only two ways people can go when they're confronted with a choice. They either go to the highest possible vibration in a particular room. That's when somebody walks in and they are like a magnet. They have the it factor because they are embodied, they're self-actualized, they know who they are, and they are full of light, and people gravitate towards them, or they feel almost like repelled by that and they go further down into the darkness. Those are the two ways people choose. And more people are choosing to go and ask, what did you do differently? Why do you have this shining light in your eyes? Why do you seem to have joy in your life when everyone else around you or the world at large is suffering? And those are the rebels who have decided to not wait for anyone outside of them, not wait for a government, not wait for a political party, not wait for a president, not wait for the military or anybody else to fix things for them because they know it's ultimately impossible. They can all do their part, but they can't fix you for you. They can't heal you for you. They can't transform you. Only you can do that. Not you alone, you with the Creator. That's always the premise here. That's how we believe. So you with the Creator can make these changes, and that is rebellion. And I want to ask you one thing. When you think about every choice you make in your life, and when you think about facing that Creator, however you picture it, think about it. Would this bring joy to my Creator? Would this make my Creator proud, if you want to think in these terms? I know it's a human thought, but still, do you want to satisfy some temporary and superficial model that is out there, meaning you're doing things because society expects you to do them. You're doing things because somebody wants you to do them, because the government wants you to do them, even though you know they're wrong? Or are you going to make the choice that the Creator would appreciate, the choice that God would appreciate, the choice that God ultimately created you to make? And those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, because in this very, very fast-paced transformational period that we're in, you can already see that this old game of procrastinating and just seeing how far down you can kick the can, that doesn't work anymore. People are disappearing from this reality, meaning in our terms, they're dying because they're not willing to ask those questions. They're not willing to go there. They're not ready. They're not capable, whatever you want to call it. But the rebels do now. And the rebels, that's what I'm trying to say, is the real rebels to me are not the violent revolutionaries. That is a perpetual cycle that just keeps repeating itself. And it never seems to really come to a new and better way. It just seems to repeat itself. So we have to think in different ways. And whether that's for you, meaning you're going off the grid, or it's for you first taking the spiritual journey, whatever that means, but you got to take it. You got to do it. There's no more time. There's no more time for waiting. This is like imagine that we're climbing this mountain, and we can either prepare ourselves in any way, shape, or form we can for the thin air that's up there, and we can do that, or we're climbing this mountain, and because we're not doing anything substantial, not making any substantial changes in our lives, not bettering ourselves, we're getting to the thin air where we can't exist anymore. We're not adjusted to it. We haven't prepared for it. We haven't done any changes. So when we're up there, we can't breathe. We die. Ultimately, that's what is happening. And again, I'm not saying that, oh, death is this horrible thing. I'm just saying this is ultimately what's happening. So I would encourage everyone to join the rebels. And again, not the violent rebels, not the ones who are throwing rocks and plotting stupid things. Join the people who are becoming fully self-reliant, fully self-responsible, who are taking wonderful care of their families, who are creating relationships, communities, and who are doing it with an honest heart, who are asking, how can we do things better? How can we do things different? And who are never willing to do the wrong thing. Because to even consider doing what you know to be wrong is playing the game. If you even consider doing the wrong thing just because it's easy or expected or even the societal norm or even required by government, none of this should play a factor in your decision-making process. When you know what's right, you got to do what's right and not do what's wrong. Those are the real rebels, and this is a worldwide phenomenon. It's exponential too, and it's beautiful, and we're seeing more and more of it. And the discrepancies, just like between rich and poor, the discrepancies between those who are rising higher and higher and those who are falling kind of lower and lower is staggering. Every now and then, Christine and I, for some reason, either we're invited somewhere or we have to go somewhere to do something. We're moving through worlds that we usually are not in anymore. And the level of how far certain members of society have fallen in their basic capabilities of speaking, thinking, coordinated actions, I mean, their bodily functions. It's staggering how the decline has gone there. So this is exponential too. Those who decline ever faster, and those who are up-leveling are up-leveling ever faster. And they're having amazing, beautiful experiences. And they oftentimes feel guilty about it. Because those who really do join this rebellion, they're beginning to live beautiful lives. And they feel guilty because others aren't. Others are suffering more and more. And they go, I can't feel good about me having this good life when others are not having it. But know this. It is my intention, and I know most of y'all's intention, that everybody gets to have a beautiful life, but it's a choice. It's a choice for people to join that movement. It's a choice for people to level up or to play the perpetual victim and always find another boogeyman who's responsible for the misery in their lives. And even if they're right about the boogeyman, The boogeyman won't come and fix his errors. You're going to have to do it. That, to me, those are the rebels I love. And I always say that there isn't a circumstance that can't be overcome because I know a person that's done it. There isn't a family environment, as bad as it was, that can't be overcome because somebody did it. There isn't a level of poverty that can't be overcome because I know somebody who did it. A level of even dis-ease that people overcome and transform into health because somebody did it. And if there's only one person who's done it, it means it can be done. It means it can be done. It's like, I've talked about him in previous live streams. It was like this guy, Wim Hof, the Iceman. People have called him a freak of nature. He's just different, a different genetic makeup. That's why he can survive in a cube of ice for hours and days and walk up the highest mountains in his bare feet and hold his breath for God knows how many minutes and all that. And he was so sick and tired of people calling him some genetic freak of nature. You know what he did? He taught thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to do just the same thing. And he started a rebellion, a revolution, peaceful, loving, and people all over the world are now doing what he's been doing for the last 30 years. And he's proven that he's not a freak of nature, that he's not a genetic exception, that he's just tapping into something that the system never wanted him to know about, that the oppressors, if you will, the dark forces never wanted him to know about, but he did it. And so did so many others, and so are so many of you. Join this. Join the rebels. Join the rebels. Become the best possible version of yourself in every way, shape, or form. So you're carrying too much weight with you, and it's holding you back. I understand that. Well, now is the time to transmute that, transform that. And you already know how to do it. So you're carrying guilt from the past. Well, it's time to forgive yourself. It is time to forgive yourself. It is time to heal. So you're carrying worry because you think the future is going to get worse. Well, have you ever considered that you have a great imaginative power? That you might be co-creating that future that is worse? It is time to become the best possible version of ourselves. That's it. That's it. That's all I had to say for today, my friends. Sending much love to you. And I'll talk more about it in the upcoming weeks because we're passionate. We're passionate about this. And we've seen it over and over again. Christina's been a counselor to so many people from the most different backgrounds you could imagine. And I've always said that she used to have a practice that was in a more separated part of our home, but it was basically at home base. So what I got to see were the people that were, very, very sad, depressed, angry, lonely, whatever, when they came to her because they were seeking her help. And sometimes within 90 minutes of one session, I did not recognize that person when it walked out because something was reignited inside of them. And they did it. She's there to help. She can't do it for them. Nobody can. But they made a choice. And the lives that have been turned around and the families that have been transformed, it's amazing what can happen. Don't ever underestimate the power of your intentions and what you can bring about in your life if you really set your mind, your heart, and your spirit to it. And this is the trifecta: your heart, your mind, and your spirit. It all needs to be aligned and on the same page. And when you quit accepting less than what you can be, do, and have, when you quit accepting less, you won't experience less anymore. Much love. Many blessings. We'll talk to you soon.